Hi there, this is Philip Cope with my Visual Basic final project. I decided to design a gradebook application that allows educators to compare um, student scores kind of across a spectrum. The application creates a chart, and you can do a couple of things with that. Uh, so, that being said, we're going to go ahead and jump right in and take a look at the project. Okay, so we're actually going to run through the code pretty quickly. The reason behind this being that there's a lot of it, and also I don't want to have a 20-minute long video explaining every little detail. But essentially, the first form that we're going to see when we open the program is a launch form. Uh, One of the things that I wanted to do with this final project is to kind of take a look at some of the different things you could do with Visual Basic that aren't necessarily covered with the book. So the project, first off, does play sounds, which you won't be able to hear in this recording simply because of Screenomatic. I'm using the free trial version. Um, In addition to that, it also uses references and creates an Excel spreadsheet, which basically holds all the data that you put in for each student. So I had to do a little bit of research as far as those topics were concerned. So just letting you know ahead of time that it was actually pretty interesting and rewarding as I was working on this project. So after the launch screen, you're going to go ahead and move to the next forum, which is essentially where you start to fill arrays and kind of create arrays to hold different pieces of data. So the first array you're going to create is a number of students array, and then the second is the number of data points that you want to collect on each student. I did limit it to 10 simply for the sake of kind of keeping the program moving along. One of the things that I learned when you use Excel, especially when you're writing data to an Excel sheet, is that if you get to a certain point or a certain number of data points, it really starts to bog down the loading process and kind of the write process. So I wanted to keep it moving along just for the sake of brevity. As you can see, you basically have two buttons. You've got the submit button, which is going to check to see if you've got numbers, as well as make sure that that number that you add is an appropriate number for the program. And then, of course, it's got a clear button, which clears everything, and then an exit menu strip. Moving to program form 3. This is going to allow you to input the names. Those student names are going to be stored in an array. It's also going to be displayed out into a list box, which you can then select students from. When you select a student and you hit the data button, it's going to allow you to input all of the data for that student. Right now, the program, it kind of functions two different ways. If you want to put in the data for every single student at one time, that works, or you can actually come back to Form 3 and input data for each student kind of as you're going along. Moving to the final form, this actually has quite a bit of code, but basically this first part up here in the load sub is creating that Excel sheet, and then also it's going to create the table that displays out. And it's also going to display some information just that the program can figure out rather quickly and just kind of spit out as we're heading forward. If you hit the trend button, it's actually going to kind of create a trend line where it shows the different averages and kind of how the student has moved throughout the semester or the quarter in the case of lower level grades. And then, of course, the prediction button. So basically this is going to predict the chance of the student passing based on whether or not they have passed the previous test, so on and so forth. And then of course the last thing that I've got is a couple of globals that are available in a module kind of throughout the program. In order to write out to the Excel sheet, I created one for the an array for the various cell letters, which kind of helps with that. I've also got a couple of functions here which basically just play the different sounds for each of the applications forms. So that being said, let's go ahead and take a look at the program in action. Okay, so this is the initial launch screen. Notice it does have the exit application right up here. Basically the only thing you have to do here is click the launch button. Alright, so let's say that we want to work with 5 students and we want to deal with 10 data points, which is the max that I decided to go with. Alright, so you click submit and it's going to basically tell you that everything's been saved. If you already hit clear, it would have basically just cleared out everything. Alright, so we're going to submit the names of our students. Alright, I'm just going to come up with a couple names. Alright, now let's say that we want to enter some data for Jack. Alright, so we're going to input data point 1 for Jack. So let's say that he has just a couple of grades. Alright, so that basically fills up the array for Jack. It tells us that the data was saved. Alright, and then we're going to go to View Data. And it does take it a couple seconds due to the fact that it's creating that Excel sheet. It's going to ask us if we want to save that simply because I already have a file saved in the location. It'll ask us if we want to replace it. I'm going to select yes. All right, very quickly before we take a look at this form, let me show you that it does indeed save it. So here is our Excel sheet. Give it just a couple seconds to open up. All right, and you can see that it does go ahead and create that Excel sheet with everything that we have input into it so far. All right, so let's get back to the project. Okay, so as you can see, it's going to graph our various points of data. Okay. It's also going to give us some information down here in the readout. It tells us the name of the student, their lowest score, their highest score, their average score. It's going to make, if we click make a prediction, we've got to put in a passing grade. So let's say that a passing grade is, let's make it a 70. Alright, so as you can see, there are basically 3 points of data below 70, so it tells us that the pass rate percentage is approximately a 70. If we click show trend, it's going to kind of create a trend line that basically graphs the various points of data throughout the entire project. If you click return to list, it's going to take us back to form 3. Where we can continue to put in data for another student if we wanted to do so. And then, of course, the exit button. I've really enjoyed working with Visual Basic. In terms of programming languages, it seems like it's pretty versatile. I also like that it's kind of compatible with a lot of different programs in terms of Windows and Microsoft and that sort of thing. I hope you've enjoyed taking a look at my final project, and I have truly enjoyed this semester and hope to see you again next semester. Thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye.